July weekend. I definitely had a lot of fun. We went camping, but I got a little bit sick, so recovering now. We're about to kick off our third cohort for EB-1A Strong. And I wanted to do this last live stream because we have a couple of slots open if you would like. We keep the groups really small so that everyone can have a lot of opportunity to really talk through opportunities, really talk through what needs to happen on their profile. So we're going to launch that on Thursday, and there are a couple slots available if you're interested. Profile building has definitely become a big topic recently. And I think despite that, a lot of people are still not familiar with what it is, what it means, and how it can help you get an EB-1A approved. I think in some circles it gets a bad rap because profile building is seen as shortcutting or cheating the system. That is definitely not what we do with EB-1A Strong. If you're going to apply for the EB-1A, you need to prove to the government that you have extraordinary ability and that you have risen to the top of your field. And to do that, the evidence needs to be real. So we are not manufacturing opportunities for you. We are just coaching you through how to be recognized for your abilities in the circles that you have, how to open up new circles, how to network, and how to meet the requirements for EB-1A, because meeting the requirements is not necessarily something that people who are extraordinary in their fields always do. The requirements are very much geared towards academic profiles. If you're in industry, you probably have never done most of the activities that are possibilities for EB-1A. And you might have 2 criteria down, but you need a 3rd and potentially a 4th to qualify. So we help you to identify what the best opportunities are, where to use your time and resources, and where you can contribute with maximum effect in your field. So that's how we approach profile building. I think that's very, very important. We don't work with a lot of really, really junior professionals. We're definitely looking to admit people to the cohort that have a claim to significant expertise or already have received some acclaim in their field, and then work on how to build that, how to get that recognition that you deserve within your field, and how to make additional contributions. It's a lot of work. It definitely is a lot of work, but a lot of people have been able to get the EB-1A on that basis. And I know for many of you, getting that green card is very, very important. All right. So details about the course. It's 6 weeks. So we do 1 session every week. Again, it's a small group. And we usually cover 1 topic in depth every week. We start with criteria that everyone should probably target, and then we go into some of the other criteria that some of you may target and some of you may set aside. Yeah, Jason, anything to add to that?
We can talk about what the second cohort was able to accomplish.
Yeah, so the second cohort ended a little while ago. Usually the first couple of weeks, people are feeling it out, trying to figure out what opportunities to go for. But usually by the 3rd week, people in the cohort have secured very substantial opportunities. So a couple of them were able to join some of the top hackathons, which was great. So they were able to judge. One of them was invited to arrange or host a whole conference track with an important conference that was being held locally. He was a very senior level professional. And so when he reached out to the conference organizers and said, hey, I'm available, they said, hey, you have the expertise to organize this whole track and get it done. So that was a really cool opportunity and very, very unique. Not everyone is going to be able to do that. We also had several people write articles. And when we're talking about profile building, we're not usually talking about writing a research paper for a scholarly journal or anything like that. We're telling you to target publications that actually make sense for what you do. So one of our cohort members was able to lend some technical expertise to a professor's research project that he knew was already ongoing, and get an author or a co-author credit on that paper because the work that they were doing was very substantial. A couple other people banded together and wrote an article, and then that was accepted in a trade publication, which was really cool. And then a couple other people got accepted for fellowships. We do consider fellowships for the membership criterion on occasion. And then a lot of people are still in the works with a bunch of media coverage and media attention. And we coach you through how to get that organically and how to get real attention for real ideas in your field. So yeah, anything else, Jason?
I think we can just move on to
Okay.
questions.
Yeah, sounds good. So please feel free to post any questions that you have.
I have a volunteering opportunity with a local nonprofit for children with intellectual disabilities. It's completely unpaid and optional. I just wanted to check if this is permitted when you're on H-1B and if it helps with any criteria.
So whether or not it helps with the criteria depends on your field of expertise. If your field doesn't really have anything to do with, childhood education or overcoming intellectual disabilities, then even though it's a good thing for the community, it probably won't factor in for your EB-1A. For EB-1A, it's not enough to be doing good things that are benefiting America. You have to be able to demonstrate real expertise and recognition in your particular field of expertise. But if this is related to your field of expertise, whether or not it's permitted under H-1B is a gray area and depends on a lot of factors. So initially you say volunteer opportunity, it's with a nonprofit, so you're not being paid, it is totally optional. This sounds like the kind of activity that would be perfectly fine. I would caution you though that if other people are doing the same kind of thing and they're getting paid for it and you're just offering to volunteer and bypass the payment, that's when things can get a little bit dicey. So make sure that this is a true, pure volunteer opportunity, that nobody is paid for it, that everyone who volunteers is expected to forego payment, and that no one is profiting off of your efforts. If you can say all of that with confidence, then yeah, you can do it. It's not considered unauthorized work at that point in time.
No other questions?
All right, so our cohort's gonna be run on Thursday evenings. That's evenings Eastern time, I think early evenings West Coast time if you're on the West Coast. So we try to arrange a time where both groups of people can participate. Participation is really, really important. We don't want you joining the course and just watching the videos. We really want you to be involved with your other cohort members. For this week, it's going to be this Thursday. And so if you are interested in EB-1A Strong, please sign up through the link on eb1astrong.com. And we will sort those through, I think, today, tomorrow, and then maybe into Wednesday as well.
It was written on my association fellowship offer email that I should pay a subscription fee to be a fellow member. Will the fee payment discredit my fellowship?
It doesn't discredit the fellowship, but it can be something that is questioned. So in my experience, most fellowships do require some kind of payment just to sustain the organization, but some do not. And I will say like the most prestigious ones seem like they don't come with a fee. Sometimes they even pay you, like they pay you a stipend to be their fellow. So don't worry about it, as long as you are not hiding it, or as long as it's not an exorbitant amount of money or super, super sketchy or clearly a pay-to-play arrangement. It's probably still fine. But make sure you know who you're paying, why you're paying them, what your money is being used for, and make sure that all of that is legitimate and going towards the normal functioning of the organization. I think that is very, very important.
Any previous cases for construction management professional with mission critical projects like chip manufacturing, fab, and data center?
This is super, super specific. So no, nothing is like as specific as that. I've definitely done construction management cases. I've done cases for people who are involved in chip manufacturing, but every single one of them did something different. So no two were alike. And then I've done a lot of cases for people who are working in or around data centers and data center development. But again, every single person did something a little bit different. So nothing that intersects in this particular niche, but a lot of things that are relevant.
No other questions?
All right. For EB-1A Strong, A lot of people are trying to vet different profile building programs out there right now. And if that's you, and if you're wondering, is this legit? How do I vet things? I caution you to really dive in and think about the way that people are doing things right now. Um, if someone is saying they can get you a certain number of papers or a certain number of citations and they can guarantee that your profile is built in 6 months, I'll be very cautious about that, because for profile building, most, if not all of the work really needs to be done by you. And so this comes down to you. Are you going to be able to push through and obtain all of these accolades and recognitions in the next 6 months? Or do you need a few years to do that? It's perfectly fine for people to be profile building over 2, 3, even 5 years on that kind of timeline. If you are a junior professional, that's probably what you need to do. So I would really recommend that you get your priority date as soon as possible, whether that's through the PERM process or through an EB-2 national interest waiver, and then continue to work towards an EB-1A in the future. But if you are a senior level professional who you've already received significant acclaim, people know of you and talk about you as an expert in your field, and you've done some really impressive things already, then maybe you can build in 6 months, because you only need to add 1 or 2 criteria, and the main merit of your case is already accomplished. So keep that in mind. EB-1A Strong, we don't work with as many junior professionals, although I do have a lot of content out there to encourage you as junior professionals to build your profile early, get involved in your profession and in your field really early to put yourself in the best position. But EB-1A Strong is generally for either senior professionals or for people who've done some really extraordinary things already and just need to add a couple of criteria to get through. Oh, and I was talking about that. I just lost my own train of thought. I was talking about vetting other programs and everything. So yes, make sure that they're not promising that they're going to do all of the work for you. Make sure they're not offering guarantees, because every person's journey is different and you are going to have to put in all of the work. And then make sure they're not associated with any kinds of scams or frauds. Like I've definitely seen several journals now come under fire because they say they'll backdate papers. They say they'll guarantee you citations. Some of them allow you to pay extra for extra citations. And some of them are taking really exorbitant fees, which are out of proportion with the value that the journal offers. So just be very careful of those arrangements. In general, you should be careful of pay-to-play kind of schemes. Like there's nothing wrong with paying for a fellowship. There's nothing wrong with paying for a PR agent to circulate some pieces and maybe get you published in the media. But that kind of thing is something that can be questioned. And if it's questioned and if it seems like all of this was self-promotional, that's when it kind of goes against you in the ultimate adjudication. So anytime you're taking steps and building your profile and doing these kinds of activities, you do want to ask yourself, like, what would the average American on the streets think about this activity? Would they think that you're trying to appear extraordinary, or would they think that you are actually extraordinary? And thinking of it that way, whether it's appearances only or if there's actual substance behind it, can really benefit you when looking at your case, because a lot of USCIS officers really do look for that substance, and they're cracking down on profiles that have the appearance of being extraordinary.
Interested in EB-2A, please let me know next session.
Yes, we are having an EB-2A profile building workshop in a couple of weeks. So in the workshop, we go through how to put yourself in the best position for an EB-2A profile. We also talk a little bit about the current trends and how that makes it really difficult to build for certain towards an NIW. In many ways, I think that NIW is more uncertain right now than EB-1A, which is interesting. EB-1A is supposed to be a higher standard, but the EB-2 NIW standards are so vague that who knows what's actually higher in the end. So yeah, I mean, a bunch of NIWs are still getting approved, but adjudications are erratic. So in the workshop, we talk through the trends, we talk through how to give yourself the best chance, and then how to plan filing the EB-2 NIW. All right. Jason, any other questions you think we should address on this live stream?
So we can talk about the progress that people have made from the community and then the first cohort, because there are some really strong profiles came out of the community.
Yes, definitely. So, I just talked about progress that was made during our last cohort, and that was progress that was made right away. So during the 6-week time period. But we've also run another cohort before that, and then we had a different kind of format for the profile building course even before that. And we're getting ready now to file a few of the cases. And I'm really excited to file them because every person who's done the profile building program through EB-1A Strong has built a really unique case. It's a case that's true to their career. It has different kinds of accolades for each person, different kinds of recognition, different criteria lineups, and the profiles just look very, very different. I think that's very important. So that's why I'm emphasizing it, like different. I'm emphasizing that a lot. People started with the profile building program, I think, saying that they were going to target judge, authorship, maybe media, or something like that. So they initially picked a few, and then they got a few opportunities there. But a lot of them didn't really stop, which is a good thing. Like they kept building and building and building. So now for a few of them, we've been 6 to 8 months down the road, and they've built really exceptional profiles. So they started off maybe with publishing a couple of articles in like IEEE conferences. And now one of them has gone on to be a keynote presenter at one of the conferences. We started off with some of them doing some media interviews on topics of interest to reporters and that they were able to network with. And now they're being featured in some of the top professional publications in their field. So, not general media, but recognized as top professionals in media that is read or widely read in their circles. And that took some time to build. It's not like that's the first media opportunity that came along. It's not the first one that they were able to take. But over the course of 3 and then 4 and then 5, 6 months, they were able to secure those spots. We don't generally tell people to go for awards. But we have had one cohort member who was able to win several very prestigious awards in his field. And I think that that's due to the profile building activities he was doing on other criteria, which just really strengthened his applications. And I'm definitely not talking about, business awards that come up like the Stevies or Globies there. I'm talking about really niche industry awards where people are really recognized in their field, in their very defined field. So yeah, I mean, I think people get into the profile building mindset, and it's a slow start at first. It's a slow roll. There's not usually any progress the first week, maybe just a little bit of networking the second week. If you get a few opportunities in your 3rd and 4th weeks, that just snowballs. So you find that profile building becomes easier and easier and easier the more you do it. So the goal going into this shouldn't be to get 3 or 4 activities on the record and then be done. The goal going into this is that you're going to build yourself a really exceptional career profile and real recognition in your industry. You get those first few opportunities to get everything rolling. And then you continue to do that profile building and all of those activities over the next 6 months, even after the cohort has ended. That's when you're going to build a really, really strong case and get from the minimal case of like maybe 65, 75% of approval up to 95 plus % chance of approval. So cultivate that mindset. I think that's very important. And it will definitely serve you well when it comes to actually filing the EB-1A case.
I have a certificate of master's in agriculture field. I published with material engineering researchers, helping me to get publications, judging fellowship in engineering field. Will the degree difference affect
affect approval? Like, will the mismatch in your degree and the field
Yeah,
that
I
you're
think that's the
working
question.
in matter? No. So there's not a need to specify your degree for EB-1A. Your field of expertise is not defined around your degree. I mean, your degree is something that USCIS can always look into. It should be present on your resume, and you should present your resume to USCIS. So there's no real need to minimize it or hide it. You just don't emphasize it because you've since taken your career in a little bit of a different direction. So you don't need to define your field around your education. It's fine.
Has there been any different trends in adjudications for this year?
I mean, I haven't seen huge swings in EB-1A adjudications. I have been hearing more about final merits denials. I don't know how widespread it is or how much of a difference there is in this year compared to last year. I don't have really good stats on that, and most of our cases don't seem to have been affected. I have had a couple of notices of intent to deny now for final merits, but that is pretty normal. Like it has happened in past years as well. And the notice of intent to deny is in some ways easier to overcome than an RFE. You just get less time to actually do it. You get 30 days instead of 90 days. So yeah, I haven't seen huge differences in trends. I'm telling people just to be patient and not worry too much about EB-1A. I'm much more worried about EB-2 and IW because the regulations in the law are much less defined around it, for sure.
I am a senior mechanical engineer working for an industry leader in the mission critical data centers. I've proven certifications in the field as well. Have you done cases like these? I'm interested and want to know how to move forward for a professional like myself.
So I've definitely done EB-1As for mechanical engineers. I can't say mechanical engineers in the data center field, although I've done mechanical engineers for other major manufacturers in other cutting edge fields. And I have done EB-1As for other positions that are related to data centers. So yes, cases that are similar or related, we could find a lot of parallels, but nothing that is that specific. Your case would be unique there. Certifications don't really matter for EB-1A, not at all. So you would need to find other qualifications for sure.
The volunteering opportunity I mentioned earlier is with a private school to reconcile their medication lists for their patients, and all the other participants are unpaid as well. It is related to my field of expertise of data management. Which criteria would this fit in?
I am not sure that this fits well within the criteria. So this is not immediately striking me as something that I would include in an EB-1A case. NIW, yes, but not necessarily EB-1A.
How long will USCS process time be for EB-1A?
Yeah, usually 8 months is an average, but that is not necessarily how the case will go. Some cases are adjudicated really quickly in 3 to 4 months, but that's very rare. Most cases take around 8 months. Some cases take more than 2 years. If you don't do premium processing, then you haven't put a timeline on the government. So it's very indeterminate.
I've built this petition over several months with deep attention to strategy, visuals, national interest framing, and sustained leadership across military, financial, telecom, and public impact platforms.
1 minute, Jason. I think it got cut off. So I don't think I'm able to answer this question. I can't do full profile reviews anyways. I'm just looking at what you listed here, and it's so general that I will not be able to really give you any insights.
What are your approval rates?
For EB-1A, it's well over 95%. So very few denials. Denials do happen though, and I tell everyone who comes to me, like, EB-1A is very it's not as erratic as EB-2. I don't use that word very often, but it's very what's the word I'm thinking of? It escapes me. Sorry, it's a late evening. But it could be denied. I have cases that people come to me and I say, okay, it's a weaker case, but maybe more than 50% chance of approval, and they get approved most of the time. But sometimes I'll get a really good case where I'm like, definitely more than 90% chance of approval, and it can be denied. So when you're doing EB-1A, be ready for a little bit of a roller coaster ride. Some people do need to do refiles before they secure that ultimate EB-1A approval. Come prepared to document everything. Submit a very large petition to USCIS. And then make sure that your field of expertise is being clearly defined, and that your criteria is falling under a good strategy. All the time, I will ditch criteria that people want to claim, or I'll add criteria that they didn't intend to claim. I think it's important to look at the case from a strategic whole and say, okay, what will work here? What will USCIS see when they look at this profile? What would a reasonable person do? Would they approve this case? And try to meet all of those questions.
Does authoring a book count as something relevant for EB-1A?
Yes, so that can count as authorship of scholarly articles. It's not an article, but USCIS does routinely accept it.
I have media mentioned on an online platform, and it discussed my work. It's a research site. I don't know what the question is.
And then I think later you're saying you have no detailed circulation. You need details about its circulation. You need to know who the audience is for this site, or else it won't be accepted by USCIS. So I really encourage you to get that information somehow.
Do you only take cases that have high approval rates? What are really reasons for denial? Is that complete loss of money in case of denial?
So I only take cases that I believe are meritorious. I'm not going to file a frivolous case before USCIS. If I think it has less than 50% chance of denial, you're probably going to have a hard time convincing me to take it. I have in a couple of cases, depending on what circumstances the person was in and if they really needed this just as a last-ditch option to stay in the US. But you need a cognizable claim for at least 3 criteria, and you need a cognizable claim that you've risen to the top of your field to some degree. That's bare minimum, and I'm only taking the case if I believe in the case. As far as high approval rates, no. I will happily file people's EB-1As and quote them a 65 to 75% chance of approval. Oftentimes they do work, but it is up to the person. And I found that since this is such a high stakes thing, most people, when I say that that's their chance of approval, will do some profile building and are on that journey to get up to a higher chance and actually improve their case. And I think that that's really, that's my recommendation. I don't recommend just filing the EB-1A and filing it and seeing what sticks to the wall. I really recommend that the person have a strong claim when they bring it to USCIS, because it is an emotional roller coaster for sure. Like getting a denial, doing a refile, it's really tough. And people are much better served by doing the profile building and putting that effort in upfront, and then getting a much better chance of approval on the other side. As far as reasons for denial, they are all over across the board. You can get denied on any set of criteria. You can get denied on final merits. It's all over the place. The money, yes, the money is completely lost if it's denied. Usually if you work with me, I'll handle refiles at a really discounted rate. So, I do really want to see these cases approved in the end. But it is high stakes. It's high stakes with your money, with your time and energy, with your emotional capacity. And that's again, another reason why I really recommend profile building for people who have weaker cases, because it is definitely possible to strengthen the case and come out on the other side with a lot more confidence in the case.
All right, last 3 questions. I've emailed you all my details. When can I expect a response from you?
Usually we don't do email. So we have a free assessment process through our website. If you want to submit a free assessment, we cover those within 7 to 10 days, usually. We're trying to get a little bit faster than that, but we say 7 to 10 days because 10 days is usually our maximum. I will say we've gone over a couple of times just on the free assessments. But yeah, the corresponding with us either through the free assessments or booking a consultation to actually talk to us is usually the best way to reach us. We can do other questions too.
If my H-1B is expiring in 2027, what will be cutoff date to apply EB-1A?
I wouldn't look at the EB-1A as the thing that's going to work for you. I would focus on getting an I-140 approved, probably through either PERM or through the National Interest Waiver first. That will allow you to extend your H-1B in the US, and then you don't need to get the EB-1A approved just to stay in the country. So yeah, I generally don't view EB-1A as the primary option to cover status and extend the H-1B.
How the EB-1A trend currently, and how strong is BCS fellowship for membership criteria?
So we don't have time to get into all of the trends. BCS is still decent. It's not always accepted by all USCIS officers, but it seems to be accepted by a large number of them. The bylaws are pretty good. Their process is very rigorous for vetting and all of that. So yeah, generally it seems like a decent way to get that qualification.
Do you want to take one more question?
Yeah, we can do one more.
Is it true I need the standards met by those who judged my fellowship to be a fellow member? Like the requirements the judges net to adjudicate me?
So the people judging the fellowship applications don't need to be fellow members, but they do need to be recognized experts on a national or international level in your specific field. So it can be any random person doing the vetting for the application. Other experts in your field need to be the ones making that decision and actually vetting your application. So just be careful that when you are applying for fellowships, number one, there is actually a rigorous process that people can't get around by just paying. They are going to take it seriously. They're not going to admit just anyone. And then number two, make sure that the people who are judging your profiles do have top qualifications. And the person who's making the decision to admit you is a recognized expert in the field with really high standing. All right. Thank you all so much for joining the live stream today. If you are interested in EB-1A Strong, please visit eb1astrong.com. You can put in an inquiry if you're interested in joining our upcoming cohort. Yeah, I look forward to working with some of you.
Thanks, everyone.